Today's guest is a marriage and relationship coach who leads couples through communication, connection, closeness, crisis, complexity, and repair towards a marriage that is mutually satisfying and enjoyable. Now, we already know the ultimate answer is 42. So today we're going to find out what the ultimate question we should be asking in our business is. What's up, everybody? Michael Johnson here with the 42 podcast, where we already know the answer and we're on a quest to find the ultimate question. I'm excited you're here with me today as we explore the ultimate question with another amazing guest expert and business owner. Today we have Keith on the show joining us. Keith, let's get him on the stage. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It is a pleasure to have you here and sharing your wisdom, your experience, your expertise, your insight. I'm so excited you're here.
It's going to be fun, Michael. I've been looking forward to this. I love what 42 is doing and what it's about, and let's build something here.
I love it. We got to jump right in and get to the juicy stuff. So you got to tell us about your backstory and how you got here and how you got to the place where you're doing what you're doing today.
All right. It seems like almost from birth, things have happened in my life that have just directed me and formed me and shaped me to what I'm doing today. I feel like there's like nothing else I can do. This is all I can do,
right?
Because everything has been wired in me that way. I'll start at age 11, because 11 is when I was sitting in front of my family doctor and him telling me, "You're the youngest patient I've ever had that had an ulcer."
Oh,
so I had a lot of stuff suppressed and stuffed inside me. And probably even like it was 10 years ago where I met with another doctor and they said, like, you were like have just a lot of stuff in you that's not coming out and not being expressed and things. So I've been working on that since then. Some things have happened, but at 11, that was the situation. So family situation wasn't that great. A couple of years later, my parents started using, I'll call it shunning, just non-communication as a way of trying to control my behavior. Right. I think punishment is when you do something wrong. I wasn't doing wrong things. I was doing things they didn't like or weren't comfortable with. Some of it was just bringing up topics that we had to talk about. Like I wasn't good about something in my family and I bring it up to my dad. He had no ability to talk about it. And he'd end up in the hospital in emergency for several days, and they're running tests on him, testing him for Ebola and crazy stuff because he had high fevers. And I knew, and he knew, it was his body's reaction to not being able to enter into conversations and engage with questions that had to occur. So you knew, don't talk about anything, because if you do, someone might end up in the hospital. Like it's that bad.
Wow.
You know? And then other families would get upset at me for almost killing dad. That was one of the notes that a sibling slid under my door. Way to go, you're almost killing dad. And it's like, no, I just tried to have a conversation. I just wanted to ask some questions and get something from them.
Right.
And then, they would use the shunning, 30 days. I could set my calendar to it, 30 days of not being talked to as a young teenager. And so I remember coming home from high school and walking through the front door and thinking of something that happened in Sunday school or in high school. And I was thinking, I wish my mom would ask me this question about my day so I could share this with her. And so I'd pretend that she'd ask me that question, and then I'd share, and I could like revisualize it and answer the question in my head. And I wouldn't stop there. I'd ask a next question. Then she would ask me this, and then she would offer me this, and then she would comfort me this way, and I would play it out. And then dad would come home and I'd experience something I never had before, where she would share, Keith was telling me this today. What do you think? And he would talk to me in ways that he never talked to. And that is how I survived. I didn't have voices in my head like, psychiatric type stuff, but it was just playing out conversations as a way to survive.
Right.
And that has been, I've developed that, and it has been my primary method of working with couples as far as guiding them into the conversations that they need to have and should have, but they're afraid to have. Right. And I'll say I'm an expert at asking the right question at the right time or giving the right prompt that builds that relationship and connection between them. So it's terrible what went on back then. I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
Right.
But I'm at that point where if I hadn't gone through that, I would not be helping these people, doing what I'm doing, enjoying what I'm doing, anything like that. So
that's amazing. And it's so crazy how our stories shape the superpowers that we end up having later on.
Yes.
It's really cool. Well, tell me how you transitioned that and built your business that you're currently doing. What's your business about? What you do, how you serve people.
Okay. So I'm from Canada. I'm now a permanent resident in the US. I live in Colorado Springs. But I was up in Canada and I met a guy and he said, hey, if you want to be a counselor, you need to find out about this office in Colorado. They do some pretty cool stuff. They're a nonprofit, marriage-focused office. So I started getting training. And the second time I came down for training, the director said, would you join the office? This is true. We have a 3-year wait list. And that's because it was nonprofit. They weren't charging for their counseling.
Right.
And so there's a 3-year wait list. Now, John Gottman, the marriage research scientist, he says that couples wait 6 years before they reach out for help. So these couples were waiting 6 years to reach out. Then they were waiting 3 years on a wait list, and everything was getting complicated and compounded over that time. Some people got divorced, but the appointment time came up. So they said, we're divorced, but we're not seeing anyone. Let's go see what could happen. Some of those people I got to perform the ceremonies for them where they redid their wedding vows and stuff. And that's the highlight reel right there. So I had at that point, I had a 3-year wait list. I didn't have to do any marketing. I didn't have to do anything to get people. And every week I would have a couple for 3 hours for 5 days. And in the afternoon, I'd have a different couple. And at the end of those 15 hours, they needed significant change and direction on how to go. Another thing with that office is they trained people by having them sit in the back corner and observe. So I had somebody watching me every time. That could, at times, yes, it was a pressure.
Yeah.
But now I look at it as that really kept me accountable. Like some coaches, counselors today, they'll work for 50 minutes with somebody, and the couples will say, we were just getting somewhere, and then we had to end the session. So with my work, I've listened to that carefully. In my work, I do 90-minute sessions, 90-minute or 3-hour. Usually they're 90 minutes, and we get somewhere.
Right.
But because I had that person sitting in the corner watching me, I couldn't just coast through 45 minutes, let them yap, argue, fight, and then throw out, here's a little tip for you for the next week. I had to be always working. So that really developed my skills. I've done over 500 of those types of intensives. I've seen a lot. Anything from
You've probably seen everything.
I say that, what happens next week is like
something new shows
up. Michael, I'd heard everything, but I'm very individualistic, which means I see everybody from a very unique perspective that is theirs, and I don't have a cookie cutter solution. I have frameworks and things that I do, but it fits everyone and uniquely what their situation is. I enjoy cases where they're super complex. The more complex, the more complicated, the more I just feel like I have something to offer them and can bring in hope into their situation.
Right.
So that's typically my format, 90 minutes or 3-hour sessions with people. And along the way, this was like around 2012, I was looking at what was always working. There was something I would do that, this made a difference for every couple. And it was in the way I led them through the conversations, going back to what I went through. And so I call it the communication cure method. And I face them. They go knee to knee. They hold hands. I say, look in each other's eyes, and I'm going to give you the questions to ask. Now, that does several things. And here's the secret sauce of what I do. It's so simple. It's a simple secret sauce. But if I'm going to have the husband ask the question first, and I give the question, what's one thing that frustrates you in our marriage? The wife hears it in my tone of voice. So she doesn't fall immediately into the pattern of reacting to her husband's tone, which she's irritated and tired with.
Right.
But he's going to repeat it because he needs practice asking good questions, and he needs to hear himself. So he repeats it with the eye contact. If he thinks it's a good question, his core emotion of like, oh, I'm interested in your answer, that comes out his eyes and hits her eyes in a sixth of a second, and her brain will feel safe because it's still in that curious state because it was my voice starting it. And then I don't know the second question or the fifth question. I go totally off of what the wife is answering, and then I'll have her respond and I'll give him the next question. Sometimes I'll have a couple and it's like really complicated. I'll just have him ask her, why are we here in this session with Keith? And he'll say it. And so many times she starts crying right away. She would never do it at home. Right. But everything about that question, there's probably about 11 levels of things going on in that question that she's never experienced. And everything that's been inside, every failed conversation they've ever had is gone, and she feels like she can speak, and they start going places. So then what happened, that's not the only thing I do, but it's the most effective way of connecting people. But then they were asking on Fridays at the end of their intensive, what do we do next week when you're not sitting at the end of our bed asking us these questions? And I kept being asked that. I'm like, I got to find a way. This is really tricky. So my first version of that came out on a USB drive back in 2012 that they would plug in. And it was a series of questions and a flash player that they would answer. Now we're 5th generation of that. And the communication cure method that they can use at home, I want people to use that before they even come and see me.
Right.
If this tool can get the therapeutic outcomes that they get in counseling, but they can get it at home without my involvement, which, because how many people resist? We don't need someone else. I don't want someone else. I don't want to share. But what if this started doing that for you at home, And so that's been huge. I'm in Colorado Springs. We got Fort Carson here. It's pretty big. And in an 18-month period, they had 5. I'm really on it today, Michael. Welcome to 32. They had 5 dependent suicides. So these were spouses or children who had committed suicide in this one unit. And they brought me in to speak to them. There was 300 of them. They got me in to speak with them and then give them this tool so that they could go home. These guys are under stress, guys and women. They're under stress. And it's hard to come back from the field or training after a month and just slip into your family, but they had to, because nobody knew the problems that these 5 people were dealing with. So they saw this tool. It's hard to get something in the military. I didn't have all the proof, the research and study proving anything, but they saw, this guy came up to me and says, they say you got something I got to see. And let me tell you, I've seen everything. Well, nice to meet you, sir. And I showed it to him. And within 2 weeks, I was at his office in San Jose talking to a group of 12 people about this thing. They gave it to these military troops to take home and use because it is easy. It's simple. You don't have to think of the question. You just got to literally position yourself in front of someone and follow it. And it's multisensory, working at the deepest levels, doing everything you need to do to build your relationship with that person. So it's been used in my county with fatherhood programs where these guys are incarcerated. They don't get to see their kids. And when they get out, they've got all they talk about is either sports or negativity towards the kid. They don't know how to talk. And this provides those opportunities. So I love seeing something from my work get built in a format that can be used anywhere and amplifying, multiplying the results for people.
I love that. Man, what a journey and what a cool thing to be able to do what you love and to be able to see it actually making a difference and working for people. I think we all want to be useful, and we all want to be, we want our stuff that we create to be used and to be effective and actually help people. And it's so cool to hear the successes that you've been able to see with the work that you've created. And that's part of why we have you here today. So we're going to jump into the next portion, which is talking about why we're here, finding out the ultimate question. If anybody's been watching the show, they know that that's the quest. That's the journey that we're on to find the ultimate question. We know the answer is 42. And we're trying to find out what that is. And so based on your expertise, you've had some time to prepare and think about what your ultimate question is that you believe that we as an audience should be asking in our business. And so right now you've prepared that, you've had some time. So I tell everybody this because I don't want them to think I'm putting you on the spot, right? So you've had some time to put it together and come up with what your question is. So just like in Jeopardy, let's hear it. What's the ultimate question we should be asking in our business? Okay, let's take a quick break for a message from Business Choreography. If you've ever wondered whether you should run a webinar, workshop, masterclass, a challenge, summit, networking event, or live training, Business Choreography created a free resource to help. It's called the Event Type Field Guide. The guide helps you think through different types of events and start identifying which one might make the most sense for your business, your audience, and your offer. The right event can create trust and qualified conversations. The wrong event can create a lot of unnecessary work. You can get the event free guide at eventchoreo.com/field guide. That's event, CHOREO.com/field guide. Now, back to the show.
So this is the $1,000 question then, if we're going to reference.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. For $1,000. So can I preface it a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. I would say if there's one or two things that I'm always doing in the couples I'm helping them grieve things in life, and I'm helping them get rid of fear in their relationship and in their life. I am on a crusade to get rid of fear. It just, they're afraid to have that conversation. They're afraid to bring it up again. They're afraid of their other person's response. And so everything I've been doing is getting that safe, comfortable, relaxed place where they can have those conversations. And when you converse, when you ask questions and get answers, success follows. So getting rid of fear. So my question is around that and fear. And it's, what would you be doing differently right now if fear was removed from your business? What would you be doing right now if fear was removed from your business? I talk about it in the context of couples. Like, I want you to be desire driven, not fear driven. To me, desire is an opposite of that. Right. Fear is reacting. So if you get rid of fear in your company, there can be external things you fear, bad economy, competition. There are internal fears, HR. Yeah. I'm a one-man show, so I don't have to deal. I am my own HR, but there's things like that you fear. Security in your job,
right?
Performance reviews, those kinds of things, and then there's everybody's individual fears that, as a business owner, you can help them at that level too. So there's 3 levels to look at. If you got rid of fear on those 3 levels, what would you be doing differently in your business? And do you think you'd see more success?
Yeah,
more enjoyment,
right? And it's such a great perspective to be able to look at it from that and understand that I think there's an understanding that we all have that we shouldn't be negative and that we shouldn't be acting and reacting from a negative state or a negative emotion. And yet fear kind of slips its way into all of that, almost like it's not negative or it's not a bad thing. And I suppose there are ways that it's not, but at the same time, I'd love for everybody listening to literally ask that question to yourself and kind of, what would you suggest, Keith? Would you suggest that we write down all of those things, or what do we do? We're asking that question and we're really contemplating that, what do we do with that? Because we're going to start to come up with all sorts of answers, right?
Yep.
And some of them are going to be good and some of them are going to be not so good. But what do we do as we ask that question? Because it feels like it's going to bring up a lot of stuff.
Hopefully it does. Hopefully it does, because you got to face that stuff to get rid of that stuff. So we've got to do something. I'm going to go back to say, you said a lot of times fear slips in. That's our brain's default.
Right.
Is to always look for threats, right? But our brains are looking for threats at the level of where our life is physically on the line.
Right. Right.
So maybe the first question is to ask yourself, is my life on the line? Am I going to die? Because that's what your brain is looking for. Are you going to die? And it's going to look for evidence to support that.
Right.
The truth is, very few. I've had people bring guns into sessions. I coached a Colombian drug lord who said, I can make one call and have 10 people in Colorado Springs tomorrow to kill you. And like, okay, there's a level of fear there where you're thinking, okay, is my life on the line? Maybe it is. I got to act pretty wisely here, but not react. But for the most part, our life is not on the line, but that is the drive and the force of your brain. So asking yourself that question and speaking the answer out loud, I'm not going to die here, and hearing it. So you're engaging a bunch of senses here. Now you've dropped the activity in your amygdala down enough that, okay, I'm not going to have that crazy reaction. And I can address my fear from a well thought out response to it, instead of a proportionate response to it, instead of a reaction to it. So it's like, okay, so what am I fearing here? And then ideas, you start writing them down. You write down the external, you write down the internal, and you write down the personal fears. Like, okay, when I go to work, I'm afraid of like encountering this person at the water cooler, or I jump in a room to hopefully I don't have to pass them in the hall and talk to them. It's like, you're not at your best when you're functioning with that level of fear. So you ask yourself, is my life on the line? No, it's not. That's silly. Okay, so what is it that I'm fearing? And I'll say, look for the feeling behind it.
Right.
I heard, someone say, we don't fear if we're afraid of heights, we're not afraid of heights. We're not afraid of snakes or things like that. We're afraid of the feelings that they generate. So what is that feeling, that situation, like giving a presentation in a boardroom? What is the feeling about that I'm afraid of and trying to avoid? What if I wasn't afraid of that? How would my presentation change? How would my confidence change? How would I come across differently? Okay, now what do I desire? What do I want to look different? What do I want to be? I want to come across as confident. Okay. Well, what's my opening statement going to be?
Right.
Yeah. And you come up with that powerful one, and now you're being desire driven and in a very specific way. And so you just start addressing those a couple at a time across those areas.
Yeah. I love that. Such a thoughtful question. I find that our journeys and the path that we took to get here help us to get back to these really important questions. Do you feel like there was a point where you were like, oh yeah, I should actually be asking my business? Because I can hear you talking about how you use it in your work and what you do. Like, what was the moment when you looked at it and you said, yeah, I should be doing that in the business? Or was it just, did it kind of grow at the same time?
This great question. I mean, I'd love to answer this question. Yeah, I was the marriage coach for 30 years who helped in crazy situations. And 5 years ago, I had breakfast with my wife and kids, and then I went out and did some other work. And when I came home, they were gone. And I never spoke to them again. I've had next to no contact with them. I saw my wife in court, had no explanations. So it was like 7 deaths, because I have 6 kids and wife. It was like 7 deaths in one day. So it was a lot to deal with.
Right.
People were shocked, just shocked at this.
Including you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there was a point I stopped doing what I do for 2 years, worked on myself, worked on the shame around it. But boy, like if it wasn't every hour, I was envisioning people saying to me that you're a marriage coach and you couldn't even fix your own marriage. And I had people like find out, they find out about me. They find out I'm divorced for a while. What do you do? I'm a marriage coach. And the snickers, the
Right.
eye looks, and all of that, it came. I experienced it. It felt horrible. It was humiliating. It was humiliating because I didn't humble myself soon enough in my family to have it go differently. But I was afraid of encountering that. I would go to church and see people who were like close family friends that we did Thanksgiving with and Christmas Eve with, all that, and they would walk by me as if I didn't exist and nobody would talk to me. So I was afraid to go back to places where I knew people, and I was definitely terrified to put myself out there again online, in the internet, advertising anything about what I do, because I feared those reactions. So yeah, I faced it after.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I don't know. I sort of find that maybe the school of hard knocks along the way. I've found that the people that have failed at the thing tend to know the most about it. And the people that have gone through it, the people that have been to the other side of it, and it's not always the case, but
Right.
but it really does. You learn a lot from the experience, and there's no doubt about it. And so you kind of, I think it's the same thing for people that are trying to get help with substance abuse. They want to go to somebody that's overcome substance abuse, because if you haven't, how do you know?
Right.
How do you know? Can they really listen to you? Well, they could, and maybe there's some people that can help, but the ones that have gone through it, they've gone through it. They know it, they get it. So in a way, it's almost part of the superpowers that you've built to get to doing what you're doing, because you've experienced it. And I don't think that can be underlooked. Let's move into the next one, which is another one you had a chance to prepare for, which is, what do you believe is the ultimate question we should be asking in our life?
Okay.
So let's hear it. Let's hear what you came up with. I feel like this one's the harder one. I feel like the business one's maybe a little easier, but I don't know, maybe not.
Well, this will overlap definitely,
Okay.
but it starts with the person, and it's I'm believing we all want to be successful, personally, relationally, friends, community, business, all of that. And it's, so to preface it a bit, the couples I work with don't have the maturity level they need for a successful marriage. Why would a successful marriage come and see me? Why would they sit with me, right? So my goal for every couple is that they have a satisfying, enjoyable marriage. Nobody argues me on that. No, because there's nothing better than that. That's it. Okay, but you're seeing me, which tells me you don't have the maturation in you to create and establish something that's mutually satisfying. One of you knows you need coaching, the other one doesn't. Well, how can you be okay with that if you know your spouse wants to get help? You're not matching here. So I know every couple I'm working with is one or two of the lower levels of maturity, and it affects everything in life. When you have the right maturity level, earned maturity for what you're responsible for, if it's a marriage, if it's a business, if it's being a parent, you got responsibilities. When you have the right maturity for it, you will have success. And if you don't have that, you'll be blaming a lot of other people in your life, and government and hospitals and schools and the boss and all that stuff. So my question personally is, what level of earned maturity do you have right now for the life, success, and stress you're carrying? What is your earned maturity? Is it matching the level of stress and responsibilities that you have, or is it below it? And if it's below it, what is the next step for you?
Right.
In growth. Right. So,
I wonder, because that's as you think about that, I think the first thought that came to my mind is, well, of course I'm mature, right? So as you start to think about that, and you think, well, okay, how do I know when I'm deluding myself or fooling myself in the amount of maturity? Does that take an outside perspective, or is there a way that I can look at that and go, okay, yeah, I am mature, or I am at a higher level of maturity, and I'm not fooling myself, right? Because we all want to be great, we all want to be superheroes, right? We all want to be wonderful, but how do we discern that?
So we need community that we can ask those questions to. Now, community can be a spouse, it can be friendships, it can be other relatives, it can be people at work. Like, we need community, but the community needs to know what we're looking for earned maturity, that it's not income, that it's not fun times on the boat on the weekends, relaxed, just those things that we measure. It's things that you have to learn and be able to do because people have made the right contributions in your life and you've matched that. Like, to learn how to trust. You learn how to trust in the first hours to few years of life. Well, what do you need in order to trust? You need parents who give you what you need at the right moment. When what you need is available to you, and you can receive it, then you can trust that person and the unconditional love they have for you. But if that's not there, if they're not giving you what you need, then you don't learn to receive and you don't learn to trust, and you got to do that later in life. So as an adult, and there's like 5 or 6 things in each of these stages. If you're in the first stage, like when stress hits and our capacity decreases, you'll find that your relationships, the real significant ones particularly, are weak or stormy. So it's like this: one moment good, morning's good, evening's not good, maybe a good week, maybe a bad week. You hear lots of people like that. We love each other, but boy, it's such a roller coaster, up and down and things. That's a sign of instability and that there's work to be done in that first stage. So when I'm working with couples, I'm asking them, what word best describes the relationship you've experienced the past few years? Weak? Yeah, I don't feel secure. Like, they could just disappear into their phone any minute and they're not available. Stormy? Oh yeah, we have huge, the highs are great, the lows are horrible. So tell me, okay, so they're already telling me right there, we've got issues at that stage. Now so early in life, someone takes care of you, as an infant, then you're motivated to take care of yourself. So what does that look like? People talk about self-love and all that. I'd rather look at it as, do I know how to take care of myself? So now I'm motivated to take care of myself. So how do I communicate what I need? How do I communicate my feelings so that you understand them well? Me having my coffee mug and tapping it here on the desk or the table and saying, hey, fill up my mug, is not a mature way to do it. It's going to start an argument, right? So do I appropriately communicate my needs, my thoughts, my feelings? If you haven't learned how to take care of yourself, you will not take responsibility for yourself or where you're at in life. And so that's where a lot of the blame shifting occurs. So you'll see it in your business as you listen to people. They'll come to you with their problem and they'll say, oh, it's so-and-so, they didn't do this, and they're coming to you. Well, that's an example in business of where that person doesn't know how to take care of themselves in that moment. If you knew how to take care of yourself, you could enter into any situation and not be overwhelmed by it and find a path to solution, problem solving, restoring peace, or something like that. And I hear so many spouses blaming their partner and what they're doing. You can imagine in marriage coaching, they do this, they don't do that. And this is all saying they're stuck here. Now let's find what contributions they need and help them grow up and through that. And when you're doing it later in life, instead of at the age appropriate times, like when you're 4 or 5, later in life, it takes about a year,
right,
of finding those people who can make those right contributions, right? If I'm going to communicate my needs and feelings well, I need the example of someone who's doing it well. That's the contribution. Right. But if the examples around me are parents who just go silent or blow up, I will never find anything else other than that until I find a better example. So that's the contribution. Then the growth can occur. And we need that enough, repeated enough, that we take that personal growth. So what level are you at of earned, doing those types of work, finding what you need, growing, and what would it look like to go to the next level so you experience greater success? I just want success for people, whatever it looks like for them.
Right. Well, gosh, these are amazing questions. I hope our audience spends a little time reflecting on that and taking the ample time to really ask the question, because one thing I know is that it's asking the question isn't going to hurt you any. It's it's taking the time to be thoughtful and reflective about it. Take some time to answer those questions and ask those questions in your world today. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what your experience is and what you found from asking yourself those questions. So make sure to put those in the notes or in the comments and let us know what you're thinking about and what you experienced in asking yourself those questions. Keith, I am so thankful that you're willing to come and bring your EEI, is what I call it, your experience, your expertise, and your insight to our show. It's an honor to have you here. And I'm so grateful that you would share your journey with us as your listeners to hear what you went through and hear what wisdom you've gained from your trials and your tribulations. Now, you've brought something for all of our guests today, and we're going to have it in the link or in the descriptions with the link. So can you tell us about what you brought for everybody today for the show?
Sure. It's a free sample of the communication cure method that I took from my office, created in the at-home format that couples can use. And it ties into the questions because, so this is for if you're married. If you're married or in a significant relationship, you'll want to use this tool. And I know we all have a level of fear around conversing, entering into it, asking the right question, all that starts. So again, we're looking at, let's get rid of that fear with this tool. And then it is also, as you go through the process, you're building maturity. It's giving you those contributions that you need that both of you don't have. So, you're going to be frustrated with each other for that. So it does that. So what you do is you sign up for it and you'll get an email and it'll have a link to it. So it's online. I suggest you do it on a laptop. You sit together within 3 feet of each other and you're given, this is not a teaching at all. It's not information. You watch a 4-minute Budweiser beer basketball commercial. How non-threatening is that? Right? Because the big mistake in coaching is you go in and you hit a big topic, but you're not prepared for it. I don't go to the gym and try to lift 300 pounds the first time, right? My coach spends 6 weeks building up my core.
Right.
And handle. So we've got to be able to talk about everyday stuff.
Right.
Do that, then maybe we can go into a coaching session and go deeper. So this is what's an everyday thing? It's a commercial. So you watch it for 4 minutes together. Do not watch it ahead to see like, oh, is my husband going to like this or not? Don't do that. Experience the moment together. Create that bond. Then right below is a Prezi presentation that has background music and questions that it asks with an audio file as well as on the screen, just like if I was in my office asking a question, except the voice is not your partner's. The voice is Wayne Shepherd, a professional voice talent that 7 functional neurologists all chose and said, this is the best voice to keep your amygdala calm. So where's fear? Amygdala. Let's get a voice that's calming. And then it has background music by the pianist of peace, Stanton Lanier, and I showed him my tool at a counseling conference. And he said, I want my music behind that. And so we have music that calms and also fires your brain at the same time in the same ways. So you're closer. You have music playing, a question comes up, and you pick who's going to answer all the questions first. So one of you will answer question 1. Complete full answer. You'll go as deep as you can. Then you hit the space bar. Next question comes up that builds on it. And you're having all the good experiences of what meaningful communication is. And the other partner is just listening. Eye contact when the answers are being shared, questions being asked, real simple. Then you reverse it and the other person answers all of them. So you're breaking the bad communication patterns of where I tend to listen to formulate my answer, but I'm not going to answer. I'm going to wait for the whole 10 to be finished. Then you're going to get to do it. And you will be like this at the end of it. And you'll be feeling something you haven't felt in a long, long time in communication. And you'll have that win. And then the option's there to sign up for 10 weeks of it, where you get a new one every week for 10 weeks. And I tell people, before you come and see me or talk to me, do this, because it it is what gets the results in my office. So if you can cut me out of it, do it. So they get to sample that and go, yeah, I think 10 weeks of this might be a good thing to get for us. So thank you for the opportunity to share that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, that is so valuable and so useful. And I thank you for being so generous and bringing that to our audience. I think it's going to be a really wonderful tool for us to have in our arsenal and to really help us. So thank you so much for doing that.
The only thing that'll stop people from using it is fear.
And we're back to the ultimate question.
Yeah.
I love that.
Differently in your marriage right now if you weren't afraid.
Right.
I'd be using this tool that's going to bring my spouse and I together. So get rid of fear.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here, Keith.
Thank you, Michael.
We appreciate you. Guys, until next time, 42 is the answer. Keep searching for the ultimate question. And remember, don't panic. We'll see you next time.